Hello and welcome to History's a Blast. We're staying at the Burnside Island State Park in southeastern Kentucky near the Mill Springs battlefield site. Another early Civil War battle that had great consequences for the Confederacy, negative consequences for the Confederacy. And we're here at the Mill Springs Battlefield Visitor Center run by the National Park Service, and it's right next door to the National Cemetery, which explains the National Park Service presence. So we're going to go inside and see what there is to see.
Navigating to the Battle of Mill Springs Visitor Center from the south is a bit complicated. There's a quick set of turns on the outskirts of Somerset, which I describe in the description. The battle was fought on January 19, 1862, and it was a welcome victory for the Union, which was still reeling from the disaster at Bull Run the previous summer. The opposing armies were small, and the casualties light compared to Bull Run and the bloodbaths to come later that year at Shiloh and Antietam, but it was still a major setback in the Confederate effort to bring Kentucky into the fold. Now, like a lot of Civil War battles, this one has different names in the North and the South, but according to the driving brochure, which I downloaded from the internet, and I'll put a link to that in the description, this one, quote, has the distinction of being called by more names than any other Civil War battle, unquote. The Confederates usually called it the Battle of Fishing Creek, after a stream that is now under the Corps of Engineers Lake Cumberland. It's also known as the Battle of Logan's Crossroads. So there you have it. You can file this under things you may never need to know, and we'll move on. The cemetery and visitor center are stop one.
The architecture is certainly unique. So we're going to walk on inside. Let's see what there is to see in there. Now, before we go inside, just see the rolling nature of the terrain here. Very cross-compartmented. Here's the Kentucky historical marker to the battle. In the first hour, the Confederate commander, General Felix Zollicoffer, was killed, which threw everybody into confusion. They were relatively inexperienced troops in those days. And on the reverse side, there's an overall explanation of the campaign, and the reason for the fight, the reason that the battle was here. General Zollicoffer's early activities. And over here we have a illustration of the Hard March. Wearing a mask is still required.
And that's when my husband works for the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah. Oh,
he was out there at in Sacramento. He worked for like Folsom Lake, a bunch of different lakes out there.
yeah.
And we got married, and I resigned and became a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. We decided it was time to get out of California. Well, the fires, and that's what took me there for the fires. And that's what really happened. Here's the time. This year is going to be a bad year.
Quite a display of artifacts, cavalry artifacts. The saddle back there. And a big weapons collection here. There's one of the flintlocks on the left there. A lot of the Confederates, most of the Confederates at this battle were armed with outmoded flintlock muskets that got soaking wet, exposed the powder pans to the rain, and caused many, many misfires, and really contributed to the Confederate defeat against the better equipped Union forces. There's your Civil War era McClellan saddle with rawhide, not leather, over the wooden frame. Union soldier in his basic infantry fatigue uniform. The Zolly tree, with somebody with a mannequin representing Zollicoffer, the Confederate commanding general, who was killed in the first hour of the fight. The plight of the wounded. Very primitive medical conditions in those days. Here's your 10-pound Parrott rifle and limber with ammunition chest. The home front. A-frame tent. Fight at the fence was a key point in the battle. The overall Confederate commander Crittenden ordered a general advance, resulting with the 15th Mississippi and 20th Tennessee fighting at a fence line with the 2nd Minnesota. Heavy Confederate casualties resulted. All the different battle flag, types of battle flags. Oh, there's General Thomas, the Union commander, who would go on to become famous during the Battle of Chickamauga for the defense of Snodgrass Hill that we visited the other day. It's a pretty good likeness, actually. The Rock of Chickamauga. I'm kind of going backwards. I went around the wrong way. We should have started off with the overview of the divided country and the importance of Kentucky to both the Union and the Confederacy, and Lincoln said that without Kentucky they couldn't hold Missouri or Maryland in the Union.
The geography of the battlefield, with the visitor center located behind the Union lines, means that the driving tour starts at the end and ends at the beginning of the battle. So now we're driving to Tour Stop 2, the Zollicoffer Cemetery, near the farthest point of the Confederates' advance, where the nearsighted rebel commanding general, Felix Zollicoffer, was felled by a pistol shot from a Union officer in a regiment that he mistook for one of his own. This caused his troops, most of whom were armed with obsolete flintlock muskets that wouldn't fire in the rain that morning, to lose heart and beat a hasty retreat.
This is an unusual thing, to have a Confederate cemetery. There's a Confederate cemetery outside Sharpsburg, Maryland as well, where they buried the dead from some of the dead Confederates from the Battle of Antietam. There's an historical marker over there to the Zolly tree. This is marks the spot where General Felix K. Zollicoffer fell on January 19th, 1862, as the Battle of Mill Springs was just beginning.
Tradition holds that Zollicoffer's troops laid his body under an oak that stood here, and it stood until it was felled by a storm in 1997. Dorotha Burton, a local woman, decorated this tree with a garland of flowers every Memorial Day from 1902, when she was 10, until arthritis disabled her in the 1940s. And since then, the placard says, her family has continued the tradition into the present.
Zollicoffer's fatal mistake. Beneath this mound, more than 100 Confederate soldiers from Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama who were killed at the Battle of Fishing Creek, January 19, 1862. There's an actual list of the casualties at the Battle of Mill Springs. The sign says Fishing Creek. Fishing Creek and Mill Springs, the same battle. In the 1990s, Jeff Walden used unit rosters and battle reports. My friend Jeff Walden. I'll be darned. He and I reenacted together in Company F of the 4th Kentucky Reenacted. Here's Zollicoffer's grave stone. Staff officers on either side of him, and then privates, lieutenants, sergeants, and corporals, arrayed in ranks behind him.
Continuing to follow the Confederate retreat, we'll make a few brief stops between here and the fortified rebel base that Zollicoffer had established on the north side of the Cumberland River at Beech Grove back in November of 1861. Last Stand Hill gets its name from a short defensive stand by a brigade of Tennesseans and Alabamians that allowed their fleeing comrades to escape capture by the pursuing Federals.
Tour Stop 4, the site of the Confederate Field Hospital during the Battle of Mill Springs. There's a log house here at the time. The stones mark the stones there mark the foundation. There, Timmy's Branch, where the Union cavalry picket line was. This is where the advancing Confederate infantry came in contact for the first time with the Union troops. The first shots were fired.
The distance from the skirmish at Timmy's Branch to the Zollicoffer Cemetery is only a little more than a mile. From here, though, it's 4 miles to the next stop at Mulden's Hill, where General Thomas finally halted his Federal army at nightfall, less than a mile from Beech Grove, to reorganize for battle the following day. Meanwhile at Beech Grove, the Confederate General Crittenden, who had taken over from Zollicoffer, was busy evacuating his dispirited troops back south of the river. To get to Mill Springs and its picturesque mill and falling waters, we retraced our path almost all the way to Burnside State Park before turning toward the village. Along the way, we stopped at the Corps of Engineers office to purchase an $80 lifetime seniors pass that waives entry fees at over 2,000 national parks and federal recreation areas and discounts on some amenity fees as well. There's contact information for the Somerset, Kentucky office of the Corps of Engineers in the description. We'll just let you come along for the walk through the beautiful grounds connected to the historical mill.
The present mill building was built in 1877, replacing an earlier mill that predated the Civil War. It was burned down. I'm going to take a walk down here. It looks like a very popular spot for wedding photography. There's a new bride down there. Now, the mill actually operates grinding with the wheel turning weekends and holidays from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Unfortunately, since we're here before Memorial Day, it's not going to be working, but it's still a beautiful building and a beautiful scene. So we'll get some pictures and some video here for you. The size of this wheel. Looks like an old steam engine at one point, or a gas engine, powered the mill. The structure here. And the belts. Wow. Thanks for watching. Please click the thumbs up icon to like the video and share with your friends via email or social media. I'd love to have you subscribe, and if you do, please click the little bell icon so you'll get notifications whenever I post a new video. Goodbye.